All right, here's our top story of the day. Ohio State quarterback Justin Fields has created a petition requesting the Big Ten Conference immediately reinstate the 2020 football season. Fields spoke moments ago on our brand new morning radio show, Keyshawn, J. Will, and Zubin. Here's what he said.
My biggest message to them would just to get them to realize how bad our players want to play, and just the guys that have come back for their fifth year, sixth year, come back off of injury. I think that we owe it to those guys the most. I've just seen behind the scenes and all the work that they put in and how much they really care about it. And I also believe all the coaches and all the parents, players want us to play, and they all feel safe with the guidelines Ohio State has set. So I just think that's the biggest message I'd like to get out to them.
You know, it's a remarkable set of circumstances. The football crew joins me here this morning. I've got Tim Hasselbeck and Mike Tannenbaum and Dan Graziano and Paul Feinbaum, who's been with us already. Let me just come to you now that we hear Justin Fields directly. We opened the show this morning talking about this. You described it as a public relations nightmare, if you will, for the Big Ten. Is it any more than that? Do you think there will be further repercussions than just what appears to be a bad look with the players and the families this publicly unhappy?
Mike, I don't think it's going to change anything, but Justin Fields is an extraordinary spokesman for that league, and I think other players are going to lean on him, and you will hear more people stand up and be heard. But in the end, I don't think it can undo a presidential decision. It creates issues. It creates public relations nightmare. But I think a week from now, the Big Ten will still be dark in terms of playing college football.
Mike Tannenbaum, I know you've been talking to a lot of people. What have you been hearing?
Yeah, this is going to hurt the Big Ten on three different levels. One, the A players are just not going to play. Justin Fields, they're going to go to the pro football. The B players, anybody that has a chance of playing right now in the NFL next year, it's the wild, wild west. They're thinking about transferring to those other three conferences. So those B players that the Big Ten was hoping to hold on to, they're going to be gone. And then really, maybe most transformationally, is recruiting. They're going to get obliterated. We know that the ACC, the SEC are going to be opportunistic. And as it relates to recruiting for next year, look for the Big Ten to start these programs literally over with middle of the road at best recruiting classes, because their competition will be on TV every week this fall.
Tim Hasselbeck, if you're a player in that conference right now, and you're one who is in that area, not locked in to be a first-round pick, but someone who has a chance to prove yourself a little bit, what do you think you're thinking right now? What do you think you would be doing right now?
Well, I think that if I were, projected to be anything other than, a fourth rounder earlier, then I think that I would play. So, whether it was spring or whether it was, trying to find some scenario where I would do that. But I think this is kind of unique in the sense that, the conference was never waiting for Justin Fields' opinion on this, or the parents of these players, their opinion on this. They made a decision, and that ship has sailed. And so, I think, we're often critical of college football sometimes for chasing the money. They clearly are not doing that here. They've canceled this in the name of player safety. And you can't go back on that at this point. There's nothing that's going to happen that's going to change that. And so while Fields can say that he wants to play, to me, that's the least surprising thing I've expected to hear during this entire stretch, is that players were going to want to play. So, look, I think that Mike brings up a lot of good points. It certainly could create, some form of imbalance. I think there'll be players that will think it's wise to sit out. Some of them won't make the right decision. I think there'll be other players that have opportunities to maybe try to go play somewhere else or try to get a season in here or there. And those guys, they might be making the wrong decision. So it really is a mess, but I don't think it changes things one bit.
Paul, I'm asking you to guess at something which I know you hate to do, but why not? Would you guess that there is surprise in the offices of the Big Ten Conference that it has gotten to this place? That, yes, we knew the players would want to play, but would you guess they are surprised at the magnitude of this reaction?
Mike, I think they're shocked because they were basing it on science, and I think we found out over the last 5 months that sounds good in principle, but politically it may not work. They never considered the political side of this. And right now, everyone that has already talked is correct. It's not going to change anything, but the damage could be intense. The one thing I'm most concerned about, though, is it may give adrenaline to the other three conferences to move forward without being as careful as they need to be. I know that sounds like a major statement, but they feel it. If you're at the Big 12, the ACC, or the SEC, I mean, you're feeling like you are doing something great right now by playing college football, which may not be great at all. But the odds of any of those three backing down before we get closer to September 26 right now, I think, is very small because of the Big Ten's PR nightmare.
That's an interesting point. It could embolden others when you see, look, the families want to play, the players want to play. Graziano, let me come to you as my NFL insider. What impact does all of this have on the NFL from where you sit?
You know, you talk to people around the NFL, they already are saying it's going to be the worst evaluated draft in league history because you're not going to maybe be able to see everybody play a 2020 season. They don't know if scouts are going to be allowed on campuses. You're not going to be able to spend the time with these prospects that you normally do. Obviously, this is secondary concern to all the concerns about player safety, and are the leagues doing it for science-related and health-related reasons? Obviously, that is far more important. But when you talk to people in the NFL just about how it affects next spring, all-star games, combine, draft, obviously significant impact whether they play spring seasons, whether some guys play in the fall, and of course what Mike and Tim were talking about, there's a widespread expectation around the league that pretty much anybody who has a chance to get drafted would opt out of playing a spring season, if not a fall season. So they're going to have a lot to sort through.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.